Good evening, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Cambodia Global Dialogue of Southeast Asia TV. I must say the last several months it's very hot in Cambodia, and of course Cambodia is hot already, but this year is very hot, and it probably has something to do with climate change. I don't know, but for this session I have the pleasure to have a guest coming to discuss and share with us a bit issue relating to climate change and perhaps something to do with what's happening with the heat in Cambodia. So I have with me today Dr. Rattana, okay, and she will be discussing with us on the issue of climate change, and she's a professor and she's a consultant. She do a lot of work in the area of climate change. So Rattana, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Doctor.
We can be on first name and Siphana.
Oh, okay.
I call you
All
Rattana.
right, great.
Yes.
Thank you, Siphana. I guess just to frame it a bit more, my background, and I guess like we can hear already that I have a French accent, and I'm extremely sorry.
But you're Cambodian, eh?
I'm Cambodian first of all,
yes.
But I was born in France, and most of my degree was between France and as well like Egypt, and as well America.
Okay.
So I bring different type of dimension, although both of my parents are actually like Cambodian, and I have been raised with this Cambodian culture as well, and this love of the country. I got the luxury very quickly to be able to travel for my study, and I think that my parents have been like extremely good into showing me that education was never something given, but was really like a responsibility for the after and for the will that you want to do and the change you want to see, and I guess like I started with political science, and I got 2 masters, one in philosophy, the other one in human rights. So it was like 2 different type of master, all related in my will to understand democracy. And
your PhD you did where?
Between France and Egypt.
Okay.
Because one of the languages I'm speaking as well is Arabic.
That's right.
It was one of my minor
Shukran.
during F1, F1 like. But one of my minor was actually Arabic. I have been raised with liberal arts, so it's not about the specialty you have, but as well the minor. So it actually helps you to have really a comprehensive manner to look at any discipline and state of arts. And I guess like the way I jump into climate change and especially adaptation is actually driven as well by this education and background and the fact that I travel in different continents as well to study or to research on. And yeah, I guess that's my plan.
Well, I mean, climate change is a big talk, It's a lot of people say that, oh, the tsunami is a result of climate change, big typhoon, big natural disasters happening has a lot to do with climate change. I think, not many people really understand what it is, right? But perhaps you can set the context a bit, what is climate change and what is the cause of climate change, for example? And probably later on we can look at also the effect on Cambodia and what can Cambodia as a country, as a people, as a government, how can we do to get ourselves better prepared?
Sure.
Should, event happen, natural disaster happen, Yeah,
sure.
Please.
Well, what is climate change? I mean, I'm afraid that very few people know what is climate change because we are currently...
We know it's hot, that's for sure.
Yes, but it's something that we are assessing. It's like saying that the state of art right now, it's being shaped by different type of scientists. Not only like the hard science, not only like the people who can plan actually like if the degree is going to go higher or not, the one who will be going like in the north as well. But it's as well about social science, because a part of climate change is like actually about the capacity of people to adapt to those new climates.
Yeah.
So when you think about climate change, to keep it simple, just think that it's just a changing climate. In many regions in the world, and you can see that as well in Cambodia, one of the main effects is 10 years ago, you talk to your grandmother or whatsoever, 20 years ago, they will say, well, they were having like 4 seasons, 5 seasons. And the period of the flood, the monsoon, was 3 months or 4 months, and now it's actually only 1 month. You know, old people will always tell you that something is changing with the temperature, something is changing with the season. And it's the same. If you look at in France right now, it's actually snowing in some of the parts in France. And it's actually beginning of April.
Yeah.
It never happened before.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
In UK, it's the first time that the month of March since 50 years never have been so cold. So you just look at back the history, something is changing, and that is the climate pattern. It can be the temperature, it can be the change in the season, the multiplication of like rainy season, thing that people are not used to.
Yeah.
And when you think like that, then you understand that when we think about climate change, you think about 2 dimensions.
Okay.
You think about this slow dimension that can be the change of season, that can be actually the sea level rise. You know, everyone is talking about the sea level rise. We all plan 2 meter, 6 meter. There is a lot of projection, but all of those are slow onset. It's a process. And then you have a different type of climate that is changing.
Okay.
That is the one where we have all of the attraction of the media, and that is natural disaster.
Okay. So you are saying that natural disaster, which happen for thousands of years, I mean, it's not like because of climate change, they're scientifically related, you know, to climate change.
Yes, the relation of it is mainly into the intensity and the frequency of those natural disasters. I'm not saying that is only related to climate change, because many disasters actually are harmful because there is a lack of management, there is a lack of preparedness, there is a human capacity behind that we need as well, like to look at.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So frequency, you know, of natural disaster happen much more than before, right?
Yes.
But is that also related to the human, you know, act also? You know, the Industrial Revolution, the recent, the last half decade, where we as human beings, through our industrial growth, we pollute, we emit more, we consume more. Is there a human sort of like cause effect also?
Well, it has been like proved in many reports. The IPCC as well will be saying that.
What is the IPCC?
Well, it's the, to make it very simple, it will be this kind of panel of governance, international one, that is dealing about climate change since more and less 2 decades now. So it's a kind of consortium where you have different type of experts, but mainly scientists, hard science, not as such adaptation. So you have 2 schools, like the hard science and the soft science. So we have to be very careful with both schools. Now, they will say, yes, there is a direct effect as well about those greenhouse effect. When we think about mitigation, carbons, and all of those, we have to look at that, yes, we are hampering the climate of not this generation, but the next one. So when we think about climate change, and it's where the dimension is really amazing, you have to come back again to sustainable development. It's really a conflict among different generations. You can't understand what is happening now or what will be happening in the next 10 years or 20 years without understanding what have been done in the past. And that is where history is really bringing a new aspect of this debate.
Isn't it has linked to the effort of the world is taking, you know, good conscience of that, and that's why you have the 20 years ago you have the Rio conference. Last year we have the Rio Plus 20. So for the last 20 years, you know, we realized that in fact climate change is happening, whether we know the root cause, but it's there. What have happened the last 20 years in terms of, you know, human reaction to this climate change? What have we done?
I'm not sure the debate is only on that, because yes, since 2 decades, 3 decades, climate change have been like on the top of any debate right now. And it has been accepted as being one of the major issue of humanity. And I think that, yes, it's a major step. But now, if you think about that, climate change at the end of the day is all about people adapting to climate and to a certain type of livelihood, a certain type of environment.
Okay.
But history is made of that.
Mm.
And any history of civilization is made of that. So what makes this debate so crucial right now?
Okay.
And I think is we have to look at back. If we think really about Asia, Asia is going to be the top in the list of the most vulnerable continents.
Is that right? Because?
Mainly because we are having such a huge coastline.
Okay.
And many of the phenomena, you talk about tsunami before,
Yes.
cyclone as well.
Yes.
Those natural disasters are going to be more and more frequent
Okay.
and more intense.
Yeah.
Is what you see, for example, in the Bay of Bengal in the south of Asia as
Yeah.
well, where people can actually like lose their life.
Mm.
And I think that's not only that, but Asia, once again, Asia and Pacific, we represent now in 2013 60% of the total population in the world. The density of Asia,
60%.
60%. The density of Asia, making us, of course, the most vulnerable because we are one of the most populous region in the world. So it's going to jeopardize in the future the development of the region and as well in general manner. So when we say, okay, climate change is now like the main risk of the civilization, the humanity, the economy in Cambodia, the economy as well like in Thailand or Vietnam and all, yes, it's true. But the meaning of that is very different from one country to the other or one region to the other.
Give me some example.
Well, for example, you can have a class of country who will say, okay, we are the victim. You know, one of the debates, I think 10 years back, and it was really like intense at that time, was like, okay, we are the victim. We are the most vulnerable. So you have been the one polluting my sea and polluting the air. So you have to pay.
Yes.
Because when I have a disaster, it's because of you.
Because of you.
Well, it's kind of very simple manner to look at, like, you know, the causality effect, definitely. But behind that, there is an ethic debate, a morality debate.
A morality debate, yeah.
Who have to pay?
Yes.
Is it really like the most vulnerable one? And in the region, you still have...
And will the most vulnerable one be in position to pay?
Yeah, or to be able to afford any solution. And I think it's where like the debate started with like a lot of finance. You know, we need to have funds.
Yes.
We need to be able to attract funds and to help people who are on the front line, the most vulnerable one in the coastline area, for example. And it's where the debate have been so crucial when we think about international treaties. But
what are the various international treaties that you know we are putting together or have put in place to respond to that? Okay, so the Montreal, you know, protocol.
Exactly,
yes,
the Kyoto Protocol as well.
Yes.
We got, let's say that, as you said, like over the last 2 decades, we got more and more protocol. Like, you know, every 2 or 3 years, you got a new one.
And how is the implementation? I mean.
Well, if there is
because
no
it's easy to sign the protocol and ratify, right? But as you just said earlier, the issue is about who pay.
Yes. Well, there is 2 things. Yes, it's easy to make new protocol, big conferences, and then you're going to have agreements, and it's just going to be a group of people very aware about that. But then 5 years after, it's going to be another government in those countries. So no one is going to talk anymore about that protocol that had been signed 5 years ago.
And
like
most of the time, the environmentalists go to the conference, but not the Ministry of Finance.
Exactly, because it's all about how you mainstream that at the national level and how you integrate that as a political will that is not only one minister or one person, but should be really like a national concern. And that's where we might have been way too fast into international law or norm or protocol without really having this awareness building among different nations and different ministers.
Rattana, lately it's been a lot of discussion about a response to climate change is in the form, economically speaking, in the form of the government should be pushing more for the green economy, right?
Yes.
Last year I accompanied like your Prime Minister to the G20, and during the Mexican presidency, they are pushing for green economy. But green economy is can be easily said. It can be given in a good speech. But how do you actually translate it? Because ultimately, green economy is all about technology.
Yeah.
And who
And
pay
not
for the
only-
technology? Will, as you said, those who claim to be the victim of climate change normally wouldn't be in a position to buy new technology, right?
Yeah, but there
But
is
what do you
two
define the
things.
green
Yes.
economy?
Well, the green economy, and you actually like frame it like, how do we do green economy? And I think there is no guideline. It's not a recipe. It's not a cooking recipe.
Yes, yes.
And I think it's where the innovation of each of the country have to come, because you shape green economy within your own culture and within what you consider as being like the need within your country. And
Give me some example of green economy that you have seen in other country, and perhaps I can think of something in
Yeah.
my country here.
well, green economy, one of the main examples have been like solar panel.
Ah, okay. But solar panel is very expensive, don't you think?
True. It's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
But in the same time, like the technology behind solar panel have been extremely changing. The costs
Yes.
have been like diminuting
Yes.
because the market have been investing into that. The competitivity
Yes.
of it make it like something more affordable for the people.
I can tell you a personal anecdote. In 2009, when I came back from Geneva, I decided to, fix my house. And I said, well, I'm going to put some solar panel. So I have a company who come and give me a quote. And my God, I saw the quote. I said, oh, forget about it. I better use the electricity of Cambodia. So expensive. Last 2 weeks, I got a phone call from that same company. He said, look, sir, the price of solar panel have come down so much. Are you willing to reconsider? We can go back and give you a new quote. Anyway,
Exactly.
I just thought
But
that.
it's true, you know, that green economy, yes, you have those kind of fashionable things. Like it can be as well like, okay, we want some kind of, like fair trade thing, organic thing that is not going to consume too much energy as well. Packaging.
Less carbon footprint.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Recyclable bag. We have more and more of it.
Okay.
And all of those, yes, it's a matter about technology. But
Okay.
you know what technology you want if people are aware about that they're going to pollute or not. So without a proper awareness about energy and how to use clean energy,
Yes, yes.
you can't actually force people to consume in that way.
Yes.
So yes, it can be a high price at the beginning. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the external donor that needs to give that fund, or it can be a national policy to invest into that. But then you have the private sector.
I was about to say that, and you just take the word from my mouth. The role of private sector is very important. I give you a personal anecdote again. I went to see a Cambodian company who manufacture metal, roof metal and everything. And, we discuss, and there's another big company, steel company from Europe, who come in to discuss. And the one thing that I was very surprised, he was saying, Siphana, in Phnom Penh, in Cambodia, there's so many metal waste. So many metal waste, right? I mean, steel,
that's
so many things. He say, in other country, they have, process to turn this metal waste into recycling, right? So I think, it's a green, they call that also a green approach, because the less waste, the less extraction from the mineral, from our earth, and the more you can recycle. But like you say, green economy is so broad, right?
It's extremely broad.
From micro, like basket weaving,
Exactly.
plastic recycling, into huge metal consumption that the private sector would have to spend 10 to 20 million for this machinery,
Yeah, or waste management as well.
Yes.
So it can take so many different forms.
Yes.
And take so many, like, let's say, comprehensive approach to understand like how to be more clean in the way we consume, for example.
Okay.
And when we think about green economy, you have to think and to place yourself as a consumer.
Yeah.
And I think that's really like, when you think about green economy, like, it's not only about the people above you. It's starting by you, and that will accelerate that process of being a change agent. Now, when we think about technology, there is something much more important than technology when you think about
Which is?
local knowledge.
Local knowledge. All right, local knowledge is fine, but how do you extract, that local knowledge?
Well, a story like from my side, like I was in Bangladesh and a cyclone was coming.
Okay.
Normally you're supposed to receive by everyone, like a tropical storm is coming, level 3, 4, getting up and all. Of course I didn't receive any of those. So I was like traveling 18 hours down to the south in Barguna in Bangladesh. And I was with the community having like this kind of community meeting with them and asking them about how they feel about risk and all of those. And then like one of the villagers looked at me and was like, you have to go back to Dhaka. And I was like, oh, so you are already annoyed about me being here and you want me to already back. I was like, no, it's dangerous for you. And I was like, no, it's fine. There is a little rain. I'm going to be okay. I was like, no, you really need to go. And I was like, why? Why do I need to go? Yeah, a big storm is coming. And I was like, well, I'm the one who must be the most capable to know when a storm is coming by the technology that I have.
Okay.
And he was like, oh,
forget about it.
Forget about it. And I was like, why? Like, explain it to me. And then like he showed me all of the hands that was getting outside and like they were full of them. And he said like, water is coming. And that moment I understand. Put the hand outside? Because the hands are getting outside just to be sure that because of the water coming up. Okay. So by the animal that are actually fleeing from the land, the lowlands, they can actually know if flood is coming. And
they watch the pattern of the animal running, right?
Exactly. And one of the second villager who came was like, you were having some of the animal of the villages trying to climb over the tree because they were having that sense as well. And they were saying a big storm is coming. And I was amazed because they actually got this indigenous knowledge of having an early warning system. So much better than me waiting actually like to know if the tropical storm will be number 2 or 3 or turn up to be a cyclone. So I think it's where we need to capitalize.
So it's a lot to do about preparation, if I can say that, right? But aside from knowing in certain natural disasters coming in, what else can you do in terms of local knowledge?
Well, in terms of local knowledge, is many people think that you are outsider. Like you go to the different country. I go to Bangladesh and I think I have knowledge. No, you have nothing. You have nothing. People know what are the risks. People know which area in the villages is going to be flooded and why not that one. So now when you do planning, you can't be an outsider. And it's the same for Cambodia. You need to work with the community. You need to map with the community where are going to be the risk. And then you tailor the solution with them. And I think this notion about shaping together, tailoring together, that is where you appreciate local knowledge and where you can bring the right technology, the right science to them. And I think, unfortunately, many examples over the last decades show that was a dichotomy of the two of them. But actually, if you bring those two together, having a participative approach, that you can really have a sustainable solution and a participative one.
All right. So local knowledge is important. The fact still remains that, at a certain level, local knowledge will not be sufficient to respond to the large-scale natural disaster. Of course, bigger country, more developed country have a better way to respond to that, like the Fukushima, for example, disaster there. And then the Nagis, big storm, right? They call it storm or?
No, cyclone.
A cyclone, a cyclone there. And the impact on the environment is unbelievable. The case Cambodia 2 years ago, the big flood in Thailand coming down, never been so devastating in Cambodia. So I think we have to be mindful that climate change is there. Effort have to be done, have to be tackled at the global level as well as the national level. So we're coming to the end of our first part, right? Because we're going to do a
Yes.
two-part
Yeah.
process. On this global issue on climate change, what is your concluding statement on this one?
Well,
Because later on we will link into more the Cambodian case, right?
sure. I think it's three main one. Well, the first one is that we have to go beyond a debate that is just who are the victim and who need to pay.
Okay.
The second one is to really empower the people. Like it's about raising awareness, but as well raising the idea that it's time now to take our own future, and it's time now to think about our own way to adapt with this climate, new natural disaster. The third one is that we can really be innovative into that.
Okay.
We don't need to wait external thing. We can actually conceive together in a regional aspect, in a soft approach, a solution that can be driven by our own people. And that will be fantastic, because I think like the shame of development already in the past was driven more or less north-south.
Okay.
Now we have the potential, we have the intellectual capacity, we have the science as well all over Asia.
Yes.
And we have the best center of technology all over Asia, China, Japan, and all of those. So we can really be a model and a leader into that. And I think that is where like climate change can be actually a way for us to recognize our capacity.
Okay. Well, so we're gonna stop the first part of this debate, and then we will go after for the second part more on focusing on Cambodia. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a quick overview on the issue as related to climate change, and the issue basically is that climate change is happening. It's a lot of cause and effect. It's a lot of finger pointing to say, well, who actually caused climate change, and who actually are the victim of climate change? And the debate is on, well, who pays for it, right? But then there's also a more pragmatic view to say, rather than looking at who is responsible, who is the victim, each country should look at its own environment to say, how can we prepare ourselves, how can we take into account our own reality and get ready for the climate change. And so in this case it's more looking inward for our own solution, but also looking more in the regional context, rather than as Rattana said earlier, is that the north to south, but here we look at the regional side. Asia is quite a dynamic region. It's a lot of technology, there's a lot of experience, a lot of learning, and how can we build up this synergy so that a particular country, doesn't have to be Cambodia, it could be Bangladesh, it could be Laos, it could be other country, how they can learn from this process and also get themselves ready in the event of natural disaster that take place as a result of climate change. So I'm going to close the discussion for tonight, and then we will restart later on. So good night.